Happy Friday, everyone. We're going to break down the details for you over the next 7 days as it promises to bring some big changes on the way, especially as we head in towards the middle of the month. We take a look at the setup on the 500 millibar this morning, and we still have that little clipper system kind of hanging on by a thread, still bringing definitely some colder anomalies up here across a good part of New England and some snow showers along its wake. We'll be watching a new disturbance is trying to get its act together across the Four Corners regions. That will be traversing across Texas tomorrow into the southeast. And eventually we have, this ridging of high pressure over a good part of the west, but we'll have a reinforcing shot of colder air that looks to dive back down into the middle of the country by the time we head into the middle of next week. So for this morning, it was definitely a chilly start. I mean, we had a widespread freeze for about 75% of the lower 48. Not as cold as it was the previous mornings further to the north, because that's that northern branch of the jet stream finally losing its grip as it tries to start to retreat back up there into Canada. But it brought the colder temperatures all the way to the deep south. In fact, I think Dallas-Fort Worth have actually had their first official freeze this morning. And one of the reasons was, it got so cold further south is we had some extremely low dew points. I mean, this is kind of actually rare to see, folks. Most of the lower 48 is bone dry air, right? I mean, that's what allowed those temperatures to kind of drop like a rock at night. But it's also going to be crucial with that disturbance that's hanging out of the Four Corners regions, how much moisture is going to be able to recover by the time it gets over, say, Texas. I think it's going to be lighter amounts, definitely as in Texas, but by the time we head into Louisiana, likely not until Sunday night into Monday for a good part of the southeast, I think the Gulf of Mexico will have plenty of time to recover and lift those dew points a little bit further north by then, tapping into some much more available moisture to work with and some higher rain amounts. So here's the disturbance we're highlighting. It's going to be over the Texas panhandle and to the south. It's going to create that lift. So it should bring some light showers to Texas heading into Saturday, portions of Sunday, and then that will likely swing into areas of the southeast heading into that Sunday night. But for Saturday and Sunday, it kind of looks like this. I am expecting some lighter amounts. There's no reds on the map. You just have greens and yellows. That's just insinuating most of this is going to be light. It could be moderate times, but I'm not expecting any significant amounts out of this little disturbance, especially for portions of Texas. It's not really until we get into Sunday night, it'll have a little bit more moisture to work with as we head into East Texas, especially into Louisiana. Those could be definitely some heavier downpours getting into Mississippi, back into Arkansas, as well as into Missouri. You can see the freeze line by the time we head into Sunday afternoon. It retreats well north, folks. So that warm up is coming back in a big way, especially as we head into Sunday, going into Monday time frame, as now we're talking 10 to 15 degrees above average temperatures for most of the west and the central U.S. So as that northern jet likely starts to retreat, it's going to bring that Pacific air back into play, and you start warming up in a big way across a good part of the lower 48. And I think it's even warmer as we head into that Monday time frame. Some of these areas down here, say in Texas, it could be approaching in the 70s, say in Dallas, and then 80 down there in the Austin region. But yes, those temperature anomalies surge well north, all those areas in the north central U.S., back into the Ohio Valley, a good part of the southeast. You're definitely going to be warming up in a big way as we head into that Monday time frame, and it's going to bring some of those heavier rains extending into Monday afternoon. Some of these could be strong, say borderline severe, especially further south along the coast you live. So some heavier rains are going to be sneaking back in the picture as we head into that Monday night time frame into the southeast for a good part of Alabama, back into Georgia. Those likely extends into Tennessee, back into Kentucky, getting into West Virginia. But you can definitely see the snow as there's not much colder air around now, as the snow line lifts well back up into Canada, as this low pressure will be extending off to the northeast. And as it does, it's still going to be ringing out that showers along its wake, with another round on the backside but less snow with this low pressure center. Could get some wraparound snow across the Great Lakes, but nonetheless, it's starting to be winding down a big way, at least in comparison to what you were experiencing for the last 7 days up there. So those temperatures definitely start to moderate in a big way. But as soon as they do, we have yet another cold shot that's going to be coming in. So that low pressure, that trough I showed you at the beginning of the video, now by the time we head into Tuesday night going into Wednesday, now that's going to be alonged into the central U.S., dropping those colder anomalies again. So we flip just the opposite again. Instead of 10 to 15 degrees above average, now you're 10 to 15 degrees below average across the middle part of the country. And that will bring the colder anomalies back into play all the way down into the south and more dry air. So I still think that front is going to be another dry one, especially across the middle part of the country. Most of those fronts have been dry on the drier side. It's not until you go into tap into some of that moisture from the Gulf of Mexico into the southeast, we have a little bit more instability to work with. You got more moisture to work with, and that's where they've been getting all the rain. And that's exactly what's still going to be unfolding on Tuesday as the heavier rains move back into the picture again, back into the southeast. So a lot of the same areas that get it, with that front that's moving across. Now we're talking to those areas across the eastern seaboard would likely get some heavier rains, and then possibly some mixed over to snow into some of those higher elevations again. With the low pressure center highlighted over the Great Lakes, you'll have that wraparound moisture on the backside. So yes, more potential lake effect snow for those areas into Wisconsin, back into Michigan again, or those areas into Indiana, Ohio, back into Pennsylvania, into New York. They've just been crushed with that lake effect snow lately. And then of course it's all rain on the coastal regions along the East Coast, but they definitely need it because this area has definitely been in a drought up here across the East Coast. But I think things change kind of even in a bigger way as we head towards Friday. This would be next Friday now. So as this system moves out, we're not going to be getting those colder shots of air that like we were getting every day or two. Now you get more of a kind of a zonal flow taking shape, and more of that Pacific air gonna be moving in. So as that moves in, that's definitely going to be increasing these temperatures in a big way, not just from the west, but into the central U.S. And eventually that would likely take over a good part of the lower 48. But overall, this is what the precipitation looks like over the next 7 days. So you've got these series of fronts that move through across the middle part of the country, but they are, again, bone dry. We're not expecting any precipitation for a good part of the West Coast, much of the Southwest, much of the Intermountain West, the Rockies, much of the North Central Plains, the Northern Plains. Not much precipitation. As I mentioned, lighter amounts with that disturbance, with less available moisture to work with. A lot of drier air going to be over Texas, so you're still going to get rain, but not very impressive rain amounts. It's not really until you get into Louisiana, Mississippi, those areas into Alabama, back into Georgia, through the Carolinas, you can have a little bit more instability to work with. Some of those could be on the stronger side as well. Definitely some higher potential for some heavier rains, but then lighter amounts as you extend up the coast, but still beneficial rains over the next 7 days, especially for those areas in those drought-stricken areas. But overall, this is what the snow on the ground looks like right now. So we've had some snow, obviously, but this is what it's laying on the ground right now, draped across Canada, but it's mainly across the northern branch of the north central U.S. And if this is how it is right now, we have a pretty big warm up on the way. So I think a lot of that is starting. If it's not going to be melted in full by then, it should be by the time we head into the middle of the month. Because here's some of the ensembles on the European by the time we hit to the 15th of December, with that Pacific ridge, that more zonal flow that will likely start to come into the lower 48 is eventually going to be starting to take over. And those warmer anomalies get locked into the lower 48, not just on the European ensembles, but the GFS ensembles as well. So we've got both global guidances on the ensemble front kind of hinting at that big warm up that's going to be definitely on the table, you know, as we head towards the middle of December. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch the next update while I protect you before and after the storm.